Namaskaraha and welcome to our next session on the yogic life. So I want to say a few things before we get to read the Karapatra, the new Karapatra. So Trinadapi Sunichena Taroriva Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniyaha Sada Harihi. So the first line I want to focus today. Trinadapi Sunichena Taroriva Sahishnuna. So we know that this whole universe has been created by Paramapurusha, and our goal in life is to seek that infinite entity. That much is known. So every human being has this seed in them to seek that infinite entity. So how should our vyavahara be? How should we behave in this society, right? So how do we actually behave, and how should we behave? How do we behave? Each person thinks, they are the most superior when compared to somebody else, right? Every person in this universe, that is how they think, because of their ahankara, ahambhava. Every person thinks that he is superior to somebody else, and this is how the society is in today's materialistic world. If somebody has a lot of money, a lot of power, fame, they feel they're very superior compared to somebody else. Let's say a person who's working in the railway station, or somebody who is a sweeper who sweeps, or anybody else in the society. So the way generally people behave is that they feel superior, either on account of wealth, or on account of position, or on account of power, right, or on account of fame. So any of those things. So people feel superior for some of the other reasons. But what we need to understand over here is that compared to that Paramapurusha, we are such a small entity, right? We are like a speck of a dust. When we think about Paramapurusha, who is Sarva Shaktiman, who are we? We are just like a mole on the mountain, right? So Paramapurusha is Sarva Shaktiman. He is the one who created this whole universe. So how can we even think like that we are superior to somebody else? So this shloka is saying Trinadapi Sunichena. So Trinam is actually grass. So even compared to the grass, we should be humble. We should be humbler than the grass, right? Why should we be humbler than the grass? Because that Paramapurusha created this whole universe. That grass has also been created by Paramapurusha. So everything in this universe is his property, right? Who are we to claim ownership of anything, whether it is wealth or power or position? Whatever it is given by him, right? Nothing is acquired by us. Everything, it is his desire that we got it, right? So how can we have the ahankara based on that? So we should have humility. We should be humbler than a blade of grass, right? We should be humbler than a blade of grass. So we should treat everybody equally, right? The samabhava. We should treat everybody equally, no matter who they are. Somebody who's working in a house, or somebody who's a CEO of a company, or somebody who has a lot of wealth, doesn't matter. Our attitude should be the same towards everybody, right? Like some people, what they do is, if they have their own children, and if somebody else comes, some other children come, their children comes to their house, right? So then what they do is, they don't treat them properly. What they would do to their children, they would not do to the other children. So they would treat their children very specially, and the other children, maybe they would not feed them, or they would not feed them properly. Like maybe they have something special in the house, they would not give to them. So whatever it may be, that kind of treating somebody on a different level and compared to somebody else, so that is not correct. That is not correct. Our eyes should have the same view for everybody, whether it is a person who is on the road who is sweeping, or whether there's a person who is working in your house, or whether there is a person who is having wealth. irrespective of all of that, irrespective of what is his position in the society, our attitude should be the same. It should be the same. If you say somebody that you like, if you welcome them to your house with all your heart, right, and then there is another person who you feel is not, either doesn't have wealth and doesn't have any of it, and then you don't welcome that person to your house with all your heart, right? That is not correct. So if you welcome somebody whom you like, the way you welcome them, the same way you should welcome the person who doesn't have the status, who doesn't have wealth, right? So your attitude and your behavior should be the same towards everybody. You should look everybody as your brother and sister. Because why? Because everybody is the santan of Paramapurusha. Everything in this universe, even a speck of dust, has originated from that Paramapurusha. So that attitude of that samabhava, you cannot develop that samabhava unless you do sadhana. Without doing sadhana, the samabhava never happens. So I am sure all of us would have experienced at some point in time that, at workplace or some other place that, a boss is treating somebody else, favorably compared to you or compared to somebody else for whatever reason, whether that person, has better background or whatever the reason, then you feel, oh, why that person is treated in such a way and why not me, right? That kind of feeling I'm sure all of us would have got at some point in time, or even, on the road when you're going, right? And if you're a minister's son, then you're given priority and you're given police protection and you go first, and whereas the rest of the people have to stand in the line, right? So all of these things, it is stemming from this attitude of not having this samabhava, the feeling that you're superior compared to somebody else. That is how this all stems. So this samabhava will come only when you are doing sadhana. So you have to have this attitude of humility, right? First you need to have this attitude of humility. You need to treat everybody equal. You should not feel inferior. You should neither feel inferior nor you should feel superior. You should not have this hina manyata nor you should have mahamanyata. If you're feeling that you're superior to somebody else, that is also wrong. If you're feeling you're inferior to somebody else, that is also wrong. You're neither inferior nor you're superior. You're a dear child of Paramapurusha, and everybody else is also the same, right? So the attitude towards every other person in this universe should not be an attitude of suspicion, right? So generally how in the society we behave is that when we interact with somebody, you're always having this vision of suspicion, right? Oh, you always doubt the other person, say, oh no, maybe he's not bad, maybe he's not good, maybe he's bad, like that kind of suspicion always comes in the mind, right? So that kind of suspicion should never come, right? When you interact with somebody new, you should never have this suspicion. You should always assume that person is good and you should behave in such a manner, right? You should not have any suspicious view in your mind regarding that person. So Tiranadapi Sunichena, so you should be humbler than a blade of grass, and you should be patient. Taroriva Sahishnuna, you should be patient like the tree, right? The tree, what does the tree do? The tree is actually, the tree always is selflessly giving to the other person, right? If the tree, if the shade of the tree, if there's a very hot summer, then people go stand underneath the tree and take the shelter, right? So then it is giving in that instance, and then it is giving oxygen, right? In this process of science, it is giving oxygen for people to breathe, and then also it is giving the fruits, right? The trees that bear the fruits, gives us the fruits, and some of the trees have leaves which are medicinal value, so it is giving us medicine. So the tree, it doesn't take anything. The tree doesn't take anything from us. It's not asking anything from us. It's always giving and giving and giving. The only thing that it needs for its survival is water, right? So if you give it water for its survival, then it keeps giving and giving and giving. It is not taking anything, right? Like that, we should always be giving. We should be giving to the society. We should be giving to somebody else who doesn't have. There's no point in collecting more and more and more and more things, right? So you're buying more and more clothes than what you need, right? You just go somewhere and then you see something and you like it and you buy it, right? Even without even thinking, do I have sufficient? Why do I need this extra piece of cloth? Why can't this be given to somebody else? who doesn't have anything to wear, right? Somebody who's very poor, why can't this be given to that kind of thinking never comes, right? So what this shloka is saying is that we have to be giving, always giving, right? Not, we should be patient and we should be giving to the other person. We should not be taking all the time. And then amanina manadena. So even for a person, right? So even whose position in the society is very, very low, right? It doesn't have wealth, right? He might be a cobbler or he might be a sweeper or whatever he might be, right? Even to such a person, we have to give the respect that they deserve, right? The respect that they deserve. Treat everybody with respect, right? So essentially from all of this, what we can understand is that we should not have this ahankara. This ahankara is very, very dangerous. So to that extent, right, to explain that how this ahankara is bad, so I want to actually tell you guys one story, right? So once upon a time there were the devatas, the asuras and the manavas, right? They were all standing, and all of a sudden they saw that there is this huge samudra of jyoti samudra, right? A huge effulgence, divine effulgence, right? Which did not have a starting point nor it had an ending point, right? So obviously there is no middle point also. Then these three groups, devatas, asuras and manavas, they were standing and they saw this this divine effulgence, and they became little afraid, right? They became little afraid. This is a virat satta, it is so huge, and they did not have the courage to go and ask this entity who it is, right? They were very curious to know who this entity is, right? This divine effulgent entity. So then they wanted to actually go and ask who this is. So first they were afraid. Then the devatas, they said, okay, fine, we will go and see who this entity is. So from the devatas, the vayu goes, right? First the vayu goes, then agni goes, then the vayu goes, then varuna goes, then agni goes, right? So first the vayu goes, and it goes to this virat divine entity, and it asks, who are you, right? Who are you, and who are you, what do you do, right? So this virat satta, it asked vayu, who are you and what work do you do, right? So then this vayu is, okay, fine, let me tell. So vayu says, I am somebody that I can blow anything that is in front of me. I can blow anything. It was very, very arrogant. The vayu was very arrogant. It was like, I can blow anything. I have that kind of power that I can blow anything. It said with ahankara. Then this virat satta, what this virat satta did was that it placed a blade of grass in front of vayu devata, and said that, you said that you can blow everything, so blow this blade of grass, the virat satta said. So then this vayu devata said, foo, 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 foo. It tried to blow, and the blade of grass did not move a bit. It was just standing there. It did not move a bit. So then the virat satta said, oh, you said your work is to blow anything away, right? What happened, right? Then this vayu devata was very, very he was lajjit, so he was ashamed, right? He was ashamed, and he was like so then Vayudata said he was very, very ashamed, and he said, oh, I can't do anything, I'm very ashamed. People said that I can blow everything, but it looks like I can't do anything. I can't do anything. This is not even possible for me to blow this grass. So it became very ashamed, and it moved away, right? Where the Vayu Devata moved away. Then the next came Varuna Devata. So the Varuna Devata came to this Virat Satta, who is Adi Anta Shunyam, who doesn't have a beginning and an end, right? Who is the Jnana Swarupam, who is Satya Swarupam, right? The Tadrisha Satta, that kind of an entity, who is Jnana Swarupam, Satya Swarupam, Adi Anta Shunyam, it doesn't have a beginning or an end. To such an entity, this Varuna Devata came and asked, who are you, right? So then this Virat Satta asked Varuna, who are you, what do you do, then Varuna said, I am Varuna, and I actually I wet everything, whatever is there in front of me. I wet everything, I make things wet, right? By the rain it makes everything wet. So then this Virat Satta placed this trinam, this blade of grass, and asked, okay, make this blade of grass wet. Then this Varuna Devata, he thought he was Sarva Shaktiman, right? He could make anything wet, right? So then he tried to make this blade of grass wet, but what happened was the blade of grass did not become wet at all. So then this Virat Satta, the Virat Satta asked, this Satta who doesn't have beginning and end, asked, oh, what happened? You said you can make things wet. Then Varuna became ashamed. He kept quiet, right? He put his head down and he said, he just became ashamed. So then this Virat Satta asked, what happened? What happened? Then Varuna said, I'm so ashamed, right? Then I thought I was very powerful, but I can't even make a blade of grass wet. Then after that, the Devata sent Agni Devata. So then Agni Devata came, and Agni Devata, it came, and then the Virat Satta asked Agni Devata, who are you? What do you do? So Agni Devata, with all pride, he said, I am Agni Devata, and I burn anything that is in front of me, I burn. And he felt he is Sarva Shaktiman, right? So then the Virat Satta placed blade of grass and asked Agni Devata, burn this. And Agni Devata tried and tried and tried, but he could not burn that blade of grass, right? So then the Virat Satta asked, did you lie that you said you could burn everything? Did you lie? You said your work is to burn. How come you're not burning? So this Agni Devata was very, very ashamed. Then he went back to the Devatas. Then the Devatas discussed amongst themselves. They said, this is not working, right? Each of us, we are going and we are getting ashamed, right? So now they said, okay, we should send somebody who is Buddhiman, somebody who is Buddhiman, and not only a Buddhiman person, but also who is very tactful, right? He knows how to get things done, right? That kind of a person we should send, they said. Okay, among the Devatas, they found such a person, and they made that person as a leader, as a neta, and they sent that person to the Virat Satta, right? So then the Virat Satta, so the Virat Satta asked this leader, who are you, right? Who are you? So then this Devata, who is the leader, he says, oh, to know that only I have come here. I don't know who I am. To know that only I have come here. I want to know who I am from you. He said, what do I know? Who am I? I don't know who am I. Then Virat Satta asked him, what work do you do? Then he said, whatever work you give me, I will do it, right? Whatever work you give me, I will try to do it, he says. Then the Virat Satta says, okay, good. Okay, you said the right thing. And then the Virat Satta discloses itself. It says, I am Paramapurusha. I am Paramapurusha. I am Chaitanya. I am within you. I am without you. I am everywhere. I am inside you. I am outside you. I am everywhere. And because of my presence, you do everything. You feel everything. You realize everything. So it's very clearly Paramapurusha is saying that you don't have capacity to do anything. You can't do anything. You can't even blow a blade of grass. You can't make a blade of grass wet. You can't burn a blade of grass. You can't do anything. You're doing whatever you're doing. It's because of my presence. It's because of my Shakti that you're doing this, right? You do everything. You feel everything. You realize everything in this world. It is because of my presence. You are a small fraction, a small drop of water in the vast ocean, right? You're a tiny bit of water in this vast ocean, right? So then this leader, he asked, okay, do you have any message for us? He asked this Virat Satta. This Virat Satta is the Paramapurusha who controls everything. He's a Niyantraka. Without the Virat Satta's permission, not even a blade of grass can move, right? So then this leader asked Virat Satta, you have any message for me? You have any message for us? So the Virat Satta says the says go and tell everybody the, right? So then after this devata who is the leader, so he goes back to the other devatas, and all the other devatas very happy. This person has come back. This person is very smart. They made this person as the leader because he was able to get a response, right, as to who that divine entity is. So they made this person as the leader, and leader means it is called as Indra. They made Indra devata. They made him as a leader. In Sanskrit, leader is called as Indra. So then they said, the devata said, okay, he is our king now because he is very buddhiman, he is very tactful, he can get things done, so he is our leader. So that is how this Indra became the leader of all the devatas. So then this Indra says, okay, this Virat Satta said he said the. So then he said this the should be distributed between all the three groups, between the devatas, Manushya and the Asuras. So then this the that was distributed to the devatas. So devatas said the. What is the meaning of the? The means damanam. Damanam means just to control oneself, right? To control your indriyas, to control oneself is damanam. So that is how the devatas, they control all their propensities, they're all their vrittis, right? They are the ones who are able to control their vrittis, and so that is why they interpreted the as damanam kuru. Because they interpreted the as damanam kuru, they are known as devatas, right? And then this manavas, this manushyas, they also heard this the, and they interpreted the as dayam kuru, right? Dayam kuru means be charitable, right? Not charitable, sorry. Dayam kuru means be kind, right? So because this daya will actually create sweetness in your heart, and then so that is how this manavas interpreted the as dayam kuru, be kind, right? So as per them, the means dayam kuru. Kuru means be kind, be compassionate, right? So that is why they are called as manavas, human beings, the ones who show compassion. And the asuras, the third group of people, they interpreted the as damanam kuru. They interpreted the as danam kuru, right? Devata said damanam kuru, which means control all their propensities. Manava said the means dayam kuru, and then asura said the means danam kuru. Danam kuru means be generous, right? So of all these entities, the asuras are the most crude, because they said danam kuru. Danam, when you have to do danam, you need something material entity to do the danam, right? If I have to give something, I need to have some material entity. So a material vastu is very crude, right? So that is why the asuras, they are called as danavas. They are the crudest, right? So essentially what this means is that the divine entity, that satta, that parama purusha, he is one, he is singular entity, he is present everywhere. He is jnanam, right? He is jnanam, he is nityam, right? He is jnana swarupam, he is nityam, adi anta shunyam. He doesn't have a beginning, he doesn't have an end. He is one, he is singular entity. It's not like we have many gods, right? We consider the devatas, we consider idols and all that as god, but actually this parama purusha is a singular entity. It's present everywhere. You cannot people consider the different devatas, and they try to please the different devatas, but we have to understand is that this parama purusha is all powerful. The devatas are able to do something, it is because of the parama purusha's kripa. Otherwise they cannot do anything, right? So there is no other entity which is satyam in this universe other than parama purusha. Parama purusha is the only entity which is satyam. What is satyam? Satyam means something which doesn't change, an entity which doesn't change, It is always the same. It was the same yesterday, it is the same today, it is the same tomorrow, it is always the same. That kind of entity is called Satyam. Everything in this world, everything in this world is transitory, right? So that doesn't mean this world is Mithya. Paramapurusha is Satya, doesn't mean world is Mithya, right? This world has a relative reality. It has a relative reality. Everything in this world is transitory, but it is always moving. But we can't say that this world is Mithya. We have to give it the right relevance, and we have to operate in this world. We should not get colored by this world. We should have the Vairagya Bhava. We should not get colored by this universe. But we have to live in this universe. We have to do the seva, and also we have to do sadhana, and expand our mind so that we can attain that supreme entity. So overall, what is the message of all the story, right? So the reason we are trying to tell the story is to understand that we have to be humble. We have to be humble. We cannot be arrogant. We can't be arrogant. I told you that we have to be humbler than a blade of grass, and that humility is established by this story where in front of Paramapurusha we are nothing. We are not even a blade of grass. We are nothing, right? Without his kripa we cannot do anything, right? So we saw that in India that there is a plane there's a plane crash that happened. All those people that were seated in the plane, they all knew that they all thought that they have a tomorrow, and they all had plans. Every person had a plan for tomorrow. All had plan. Somebody got married and they were going to meet their husband. Somebody wanted to relocate to London. Like that, there are different stories that you can hear, right? Of all the people, everybody had a plan that what they're going to do tomorrow in this world. Do you think anybody was thinking about Paramapurusha when they died? No, right? So why is it that? Because they're so engrossed in the material world, right? If you're engrossed in the material world, then you cannot think about Paramapurusha, because the reason for that is why they are engrossed in the material world is because they are thinking they have a tomorrow, and they are thinking that when they become old at 50 years or 60 years, then they can start thinking about Paramapurusha. That is what general tendency is, right? So they never thought about Paramapurusha. They were just thinking about what is going to happen. I'm going to go reach my destination, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. That is what their all plans was. But you never know when this mrityu will come and strike us, right? We never know when this death will come and strike us. Every person is thinking that my life is for a very long time, I'm going to live for a long time. Nobody in this earth thinks about the death. Nobody thinks about death, right? Everybody thinks they are going to live for a very, very long time, right? So if I have to think about Paramapurusha, let me think about after 10 years, after 20 years, after 30 years. Why should I think about Paramapurusha today? But the point is that we don't know whether we are going to live the next second, right? They were in the plane, they were all taking selfies, and they were posting their selfies and everything. The next minute their life is gone, right? Life is very, very uncertain. So how should one behave? How should one behave is that, right, mrityuna kesheshu grihitah iva dharmam acharet, right? Mrityuna, by mrityu, as if the mrityu devata has held your hair, right? As if he's held your hair tightly. Like that you have to follow the dharma, that is the manava dharma. Follow the manava dharma as if that mrityu devata is standing right on your head and holding your hair. That means you have to follow the dharma every minute, right? Every minute. There is no, you don't know when death is going to come and strike you, right? You don't know when death is going to attack you, because life is very uncertain, right? We don't know when we are here today, and we don't know whether we're going to be there tomorrow, right? If that is the case, if you're not thinking about Paramapurusha today, and this minute, how is it you're going to think about Paramapurusha when you die, right? When somebody dies, how is it that they're going to think about Paramapurusha? Everybody knows that death is certain, but we are all thinking that death is not going to happen to me today or tomorrow. It is like maybe after several years, right? That is how everybody thinks. Nobody likes to think about death. But the point is that we have to follow dharma as if that the mrityu devata has held your hair tightly, right? It's holding your hair tightly, and you don't know when it is going to take you, right? Like that you have to do the dharma. then only in the mrityu kala, when the death is going to strike you, you're going to think about parama purusha. Otherwise, how is it you're going to think about parama purusha? So like, if let's say that those people who were there in the plane, right, they suddenly realize that the plane is going to crash, and at that minute, what do you think they were thinking, right? Maybe some people were thinking about parama purusha, but maybe most of the people were afraid, right? So, unless one is established in dharma, there is no way you can think about parama purusha at the time of death. At the time of death, we want to think about parama purusha because we want to get liberated, we want to get mukti moksha, because nobody wants to come back to this universe and do all of this over and again, right? Live in this pashu jivanam, right? So what the message is, that we should not postpone what we should do, right? To learn sadhana, to engage in yogic life, and to attain parama purusha, that is not for tomorrow. You can't say that, I won't do it today, I will do it tomorrow. We never know whether there is going to be tomorrow or not. Life is extremely uncertain. So having that kind of view, we have to proceed forward, we have to take the efforts to learn sadhana, and for that, all of us should go to the shivir. We have to make arrangements, we have to adjust our life, right? Everything else in this life is not so important as learning sadhana, and progressing further. Nothing else is as important as this, right? Whatever whatever appointments and whatever we have, all those can be postponed. It's not that that cannot happen later on, right? So this shivir is happening only once a year. It is happening once a year. So we should all make every effort to come to the shivir and learn sadhana, because life is very uncertain. And shubhasya shigram, anything which is very good for us, for our agragatihi, we have to take that action immediately. We should not postpone, right? Because this experience in shivir is a life changing experience. It is a life changing experience. It will not be, I cannot do justice to it by just explaining it. One has to come there and experience it. Then you will understand. Otherwise it's not possible to understand. You have to come there and experience what it is, and you have to put your heart and soul into it. You have to be open minded. Then only you will get the full benefit out of it, right? So having said that, I want to go towards our next karapatra, the new karapatra that I will just present it in a minute, right? So we actually any questions so far, any thoughts or comments? Okay, so we actually started out what is dharma, what is the nature of human being, what is the difference between animal and a human. Then we read about what is the cosmic entity, what is purusha, what is prakriti, what is nirguna brahma, saguna brahma. All those things we discussed. And how is it that prakriti comes to qualify purusha, right? uh, like the ocean of consciousness, like the ocean of water where you have icebergs, and an iceberg is where prakriti is having a qualifying effect on purusha to create saguna brahma. So that was what second chapter, what is cosmic entity. And then in the third chapter we saw what is this world, where we discussed in detail about the Srishti Chakra. And in the fourth chapter we saw who am I and what am I, right? So uh, so so all of them, right? Who am I, what am I? So we said that the actual I, the I is the I feeling is mahat tattva. So that I is not atma, right? So the I, that shuddha purusha is not the shariram, it is not the body, it is not the I feeling, it is not the mind, right? But the shuddha purusha is behind everything, right? Without that shuddha purusha there is no mahat tattva, right? Without the mahat tattva there is no aham tattva, right? So we saw all of that, right? So uh, now we are actually going to go into the next pravachan. What is my relation with the universe and the cosmic entity? Okay, Shubham Bagni, do you want to read?
Yes, Bhagini. What is my relation with the universe and the cosmic entity? Nirgun Brahma is the supreme rank of Brahma, and this status is attained when consciousness is not under the qualifying influence of Prakriti Sagun Brahma. The qualified supreme entity is under the qualifying influence of Prakriti. Sagun Brahma is also called Bhagwan. Consciousness Purusha, on attaining freedom from the bondage of qualifying influence of Prakriti, acquires the supreme rank and has the status of Nirguna, non-qualified consciousness. Atma or unit consciousness, being a multiple of consciousness in the qualified supreme entity, is also a multiple of Bhagwan. Hence, unit consciousness is also Bhagwan, and on being released from the bondage of Prakriti, it merges in Nirgun to attain the supreme rank. Here it is saying that Nirgun Brahma is a supreme rank of Brahma. Nirgun Brahma is the above all, and this is, we call it supreme because it has no influence of Prakriti. Sagun Brahma is under the influence of Prakriti and is known as Bhagwan. That consciousness Purusha, when it attains freedom from influence of Prakriti and it acquires the most supreme rank, then we call it Nirguna, means non-qualified consciousness. That Atma or unit consciousness, Chaitanya, being a multiple of consciousness in the qualified supreme entity, is also a multiple of Bhagwan. It's like Paramatma is a multiple of many Atmas, multiple of Atmas. Hence, unit consciousness is also Bhagwan. Since unit consciousness is also similar like Sagun Brahma, so it is also called as a Bhagwan, and when it releases from the influence of Prakriti, it merges into Nirgun Brahma and also get the supreme rank. Bhagini, in that chapter, what is this world, they have studied that there is two things ना, एक तो अणु चेतना और एक भूमा चेतना. It was like जो भूमा चेतना है वो अणु चेतना की मल्टीपल्स हैं, एंड इसमें ऐसे बोला गया है कि यूनिट कॉन्शियसनेस है आत्मा बीइंग अ मल्टीपल ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस. इसमें बोल रहे हैं कि आत्मा ही मल्टीपल है, तो ये मेरे को पूछना था कि आत्मा मल्टीपल है या फिर परमात्मा मल्टीपल है.
No, Paramatma is a multiplicity of multiples. Paramatma, multiplicity of multiples. Paramatma is the one who is not only the sum total of all the Jivatmas, but also all the other Atmas, the unit consciousnesses, which are in dormant state, which have not manifested. Right? So, Paramatma is the one that is the multiple of all of them. Right? So, the unit consciousness is just one of the multiple of the many multiples. Okay, Paramatma is multiple. It is a multiple of all the multiplicities. So Paramatma is the one. So initially there is Paramatma, and at 6 o'clock, when the when the jiva emerges, that is when the consciousness gets divided into unit consciousness, into multiple unit consciousness, and there is a unit consciousness which is attached to every jiva. Then that becomes the jivatma. Right? There is a jiva and there is atma, jivatma. So this Paramapurusha is a multiple of all of these jivatmas which are manifested and also the Atma, the unit consciousnesses which have not manifested. So like for instance, if you think about this ocean, right? If you think about this ocean, in that ocean there is water everywhere, right? But in some places it is because of the weather conditions, there is iceberg, right? So we can think about the iceberg as the Srishti, right, as a Saguna Brahma, and everywhere else there is Nirguna Brahma. So the iceberg is also water, right? Everything is water. At the end of the day, everything, the whole ocean is Paramapurusha. So within that ocean, if you have multiple icebergs, right, where you have the jivas, so you put all of them together, that is what is the Paramapurusha, the Nirguna Purusha, which is the water, which is, it is just as water, and also the water which is in the form of iceberg. Everything is Paramapurusha. So Paramapurusha is the sum total of all the consciousnesses which have manifested and have become Jivatma, and also the consciousnesses which are in dormant state, which have not manifested. They're just remaining as water. Is that clear, Bhagini?
Yes, Bhagini.
Okay. So over here, nicely said, Bhagini. Thank you. So far we have discussed what Manava Dharma is. We talked about the nature of human being, what the nature of human being is, how to get engaged in becoming or moving in a direction, so that they become a true human being, right? We talked about the supreme entity, what it is. We talked about the Srishti Chakra, what the Vishwa is, what the universe is, what is its reality status, right? How it comes into existence, right? How the Saguna Brahma comes into existence, and where our place is in it. Right now we are talking the relationship between the universe and the cosmic entity, right? So what is my relationship with the universe and the cosmic entity? So the nature of a human being is to seek the infinite and ultimately become merged with that supreme entity, right? That is what is the goal of human life, right? So over in this paragraph, that ultimately what do we want to attain? We want to attain that Nirguna Brahma. We want to attain that Nirguna status, right? So that the Nirguna Purusha, when he comes under the influence of Prakriti, this whole Srishti comes about, right? And if we say Saguna Brahma is Ishvara or Bhagavan, then all the unit consciousnesses that are there, that are also a part of the Saguna Brahma, and we can say the unit consciousnesses can be called as Bhagavan, right? So all of this is happening because of the influence of Prakriti, and when we get released from the bondage of Prakriti, then we can attain the Nirguna Avastha. Till then we will be bound. So for that we need to understand, we saw in the previous pravachan, we need to understand that we are bound. When we understand we are bound, then we can take efforts with the Kripa Vrishti of Paramapurusha, we can take the efforts to move forward, right? So that is what this paragraph is talking about. So essentially what is actually Bhagavan? I want to talk about this Bhagavan, right? So we haven't talked about what Bhagavan is. So I said if one's mind becomes one with the Saguna Brahma, if one's mind becomes one with the Saguna Brahma, then it is called as Mukti, right? At that point the mind is there because the Saguna Brahma has a mind, and when one's mind becomes merged into the mind of Saguna Brahma, then it is called Mukti. And when one moves beyond the mind, in the Shuddha Purusha there is no mind, right? There is no mind. That is actually called as Moksha, right? The mind gets completely dissolved into the Jivatma, and the Jivatma merges into the Paramatma. That is called as Moksha. In Mukti what happens? The mind is still there. Mind merges into the Bhuma mind, the cosmic mind. The unit mind merges into the cosmic mind, and the Jivatma merges into Paramatma. That is called as the mukti, right? So here it's saying that Saguna Brahma is Bhagavan, right? Why is Saguna Brahma called as Bhagavan? Because it is called Bhagaha Asya Asti. Bhagaha Asya Asti. Iti Bhagaha means 6 attributes. An entity is called Bhagavan when it has 6 attributes. It has Aishwarya, Virya, Yashaha, Srihi, Jnanam, and there is one more, right? The 6 attributes are there, then it is called as Bhagavan, right? So human being also has those attributes. Human being also has those attributes, and that is why the human being, in the sense the unit, the Jivatma, the unit consciousness, that also has all of these attributes, right? All of these attributes. That is why the Jivatma can also be called as Bhagavan. Aishwaryam, Viryam, Yashaha, Shriyah, Jnanam, Vairagyam. Vairagyam is the last one. Vairagyam. If Bhagavan means an entity which has all of those, is called as a Bhagavan. So Saguna Brahma has all of those attributes. That is why it is called as Bhagavan. And human beings, we also have the capacity to get those attributes. So when we do sadhana, and as a part of sadhana, you get a lot of siddhis, and you get all of these attributes, the 6 attributes. Therefore, the human beings also can elevate to that status of Bhagavan. So even to become the Bhagavan is not the goal of human being, right? The goal of human being is to attain that Nirguna Purusha, right? The goal of human being is not to attain the Saguna Brahma, right? Even mukti is not a small thing. Mukti is not a small thing, but ultimately the goal of human life is to attain the Nirguna Brahma, right? So that the human consciousness is also ultimately Bhagavan. The human consciousness also takes on those qualities as one moves along the path towards the supreme entity, right? And ultimately one becomes merged in the Nirguna Brahma. Then one no longer has a mind, right? The Purusha of the human being merges back into the Shuddha Purusha of the Nirguna Brahma, right? So that is what this paragraph is talking about. Any questions so far? Okay, we'll go to the next paragraph. Chandrasekhar Mahodaya.
Yes, Bhayini. In the previous chapter, it was explained that the human being's feelings of I is not Atman or unit consciousness. The knowledge of existence or the feeling of I is different from unit consciousness. It has also been explained that this feeling of I is only a metamorphosed projection of unit consciousness. Hence, the human being's I entity is not Bhagavan. It is a changed or assumed form of Bhagavan. For example, a person called Rama, while acting as Shah Jahan on the stage, will be called Shah Jahan and not Rama. Rama playing the role of Shah Jahan will not be the real personality of Rama. It will be only a changed or assumed personality, and as long as he continues to act that role, he will be called Shah Jahan and not Rama. Similarly, as long as the feeling of I is the person's identity, the person will be different from his or her Atman or Bhagavan, and the person with this feeling of I will remain only a changed or assumed form of unit consciousness, Atman. It would thus be seen that it is a person's feeling of I which keeps the person away from his or her unit consciousness. In fact, it is this feeling of I which makes a human being a different entity from Bhagavan. On the conclusion of the drama in which Rama played the role of Shah Jahan, he reverts back to his original personality and is called Rama. In the same way, on release from this feeling of I, the changed or assumed form of unit consciousness ceases to exist, and unit consciousness, Atman, becomes nirguna, non-qualified. As this assumed form comes about only as a result of the qualifying influence of Prakriti, the termination of this changed or assumed form of consciousness means freedom from the bondage of Prakriti. It is hence the feeling of I in human beings which creates the difference between people and their unit consciousness. In reality, it is this feeling of I which keeps the unit consciousness or Atman from attaining the supreme rank. So again, in this paragraph, it dwells further into making the distinction between the Bhagavan and the feeling of I, because we said everybody, every human being is Bhagavan, but and still distinct and different from Bhagavan. The difference between the human being and the Bhagavan is that the human being or this individual entity has this feeling of I. As soon as one has this feeling of I, so that makes the distinction between Bhagavan and this entity, the unit consciousness that's influenced by the feeling of I. Again, this is just, it seemed to go around and round this thing where we had already discussed in one of the previous Karapatras and called this the individual's Mahatattva. And we said before, and it's saying it in a different words here, that each human being, which is a projection of Saguna Brahma, which in turn Saguna Brahma was influenced by Prakriti. Nirguna Brahma, influenced by Prakriti, being Saguna Brahma, then reflects on each individual unit consciousness. And each individual unit consciousness is really Bhagavan. But then it's said in the Karapatra that unit consciousness gets a feeling of I. That feeling of I is as that the unit consciousness is Mahatattva. And once you have the Mahatattva, so then therefore the unit consciousness, which is Bhagavan, has gotten the influence of Prakriti to create this Mahatattva. And Bhagavan, with the influence of Prakriti, having created Mahatattva, now makes that distinction of what the unit consciousness or Bhagavan is, and this entity with Mahatattva, because it's got this feeling of I. And the paragraph draws an analogy of a character, a person called Rama playing a character called Shah Jahan, and that person will continue to be referred to and behave like Shah Jahan and called Shah Jahan as long as he's playing the role. And once he stops playing the role, he'll no longer be Shah Jahan, he'll be Rama, he'll be called Rama. And this is an analogy drawn to the unit consciousness under the influence of Prakriti starts playing a role of this unit consciousness influenced by Prakriti, a Mahatattva, Ahamtattva, and Chitta in progression. But now it's no longer unit consciousness because it's playing a role. It's playing a role of this Mahatattva, and Aham Tattva and Chitta. And for that to be called as unit consciousness or Bhagavan, you have to stop playing the role. Stop playing the role where the Mahatattva would no longer exist in terms of, even if it physically exists, in terms of the virtually doesn't exist, would then be recognized as Bhagwan. So this making that distinction of that the feeling of I is what keeps the unit consciousness or Atman from attaining that distinction or this thing of being Bhagwan.
Yes, Maurya, nicely said. Yeah, you want to say something?
No, I'm saying I'm just equating the Saguna Brahma to also the cosmic consciousness. Okay.
Yeah, nicely said. So I just wanted to clarify one thing is that when you're trying to explain a philosophy, we have to explain the tattva using different words so that it becomes clear, right? That is the reason it may seem like it is kind of a repetition, but it's actually not repetition, right? Some newer nuances have been explained here, and in that context, this the discussion about the I feeling and how that I feeling is different from the unit consciousness has been explained. So that is how in philosophy the same tattva will be explained in different ways, so that it is becoming clear. It is becoming very clear to the person who is reading, right? Because some of these things are very minute, and to explain about Paramapurusha is not possible, right? So we are only trying to understand it using some examples. But Paramapurusha is he's Manasatit, right? He's Manasatit, right? So that is the reason you feel like it is going round and round. It is not like that. It is essentially trying to make the tattvas clear for the reader, right? So in this paragraph, right, we know that each person has this I feeling, this feeling of self-awareness, right? A cat or a dog, they eat food, but they don't have the feeling that they are eating the food, right? But when a human being sits down to eat food, they have the feeling that they are eating the food. They have the feeling of doership. I am doing it. They have the feeling of the self-awareness, and that arises due to the Mahatattva, due to the development of the Mahatattva in the unit mind. So we know that there are three parts of the unit mind: Mahatattva, Aham Tattva, and Chitta. So this Mahatattva, which is the I feeling, I exist, right? Which comes, the I feeling comes into existence in the Bhuma, in the cosmic mind itself, right? At 3 o'clock itself, essentially at 1 o'clock. At 1 o'clock, the Mahatattva comes into being, the cosmic mind, right? When the Purusha is qualified by the Sattva-guna of Prakriti. And the unit mind is just a unit level of the same structure as the cosmic mind, which has all the three components. And in the case of the unit mind, that I feeling is the small I feeling. It's a small I feeling, which is the Rama, Shyama, Leela, Sita. That I feeling, the name that is given to each individual human being is that I feeling. Whatever the person's name may have been given early in life as an infant, they're getting a name as Rama, Sita, Leela, and all that. So that is on one hand the development of Mahatattva. On one hand is what distinguishes humans from animals, right? Because it gives them the desire of moving towards that infinite entity, right? So it is see, on one hand this Mahatattva helps us to attain Paramapurusha. On the other hand, it is this Mahatattva that keeps us from realizing that infinite entity. right? It is this very same thing which keeps us from realizing that supreme entity. It is because of this I feeling, right? So it is because of this I feeling that, as Rama, Shyama, Gita, that we feel we are separate entities. We feel we are separate entities, and therefore we want to be separate from that Paramatma, right? There is actually a sloka also in this regard, that the unit consciousness goes on revolving around Paramatma, like the planets are revolving around the sun, and they go on in the orbit continuing so long as they feel they are separate from that Paramatma. They are different from Paramatma. So the supreme entity who inspired the creation of this entire universe, and so as long as we feel that we are separate from that entity, we'll keep going in this orbit, we'll keep roaming in this universe, doing all kinds of things, right? We will be doing all kinds of things as Rama, Shyama, Shah Jahan, or whatever, in the guise of Shah Jahan. In the guise of Shah Jahan, we will be doing all of these things, right? So just like the Rama and Shah Jahan example being given here, so long as somebody identifies with their small I feeling, their name being Rama, Shyama, Gita, Sita, whatever, then they go on roaming in this universe, intoxicated by the things of this world. And once they realize that they are not separate from Paramatma, that is when their small I, that keeps them separate, right? The small I feeling, because of the small I feeling, they feel they're separate from this Paramatma, right? So when that entity realizes, when his inner eyes are opened and he realizes that he's not different from that Paramatma, then what happens? Then he becomes one with that entity, right? Then that very small I feeling which is being described in this paragraph is the thing which keeps us separate from that Paramapurusha. So long as we go on identifying with that small I feeling, then, right, and that is we are always identifying with the small I feeling. But when we engage in the process of sadhana, during the process of sadhana, we are merging the small I feeling into the big I feeling, and as we keep doing sadhana regularly, what happens? Your individual I feeling gets slowly diminished. It keeps diminishing. Every time you do sadhana, your I feeling keeps diminishing, and finally that I feeling will no longer exist. Only the big I feeling will be there, right? So every human being has two eyes within them. One is the small I feeling, and the other is the big I feeling, the cosmic I. So when you give up your small I, to which we have a lot of attachment, and that giving up of the small I is the process of sadhana, right? So here in this, it is very nicely how to give up the small I feeling, right? That is through the process of sadhana. In this paragraph, it is giving you a nice comparison of upama here with the actor Rama, who takes on the role of Shah Jahan. That is all of us, because we are actually Paramapurusha, but we have taken a different role and we think we are different, right? We feel that we are Shah Jahan, and that is the difference. And in a play, Rama understands that he's taking on a role. In a play, we can see that Rama understands he's Rama, and he understands he's taking the role of Shah Jahan. But in real life, right, in this world, we have all taken a role, right? We have taken a role of Shubham, we have taken a role of Chandrasekhar, like that. Each of us, we have taken a role, but we don't understand that we have taken a role. We think that we are Shubham, we think that we are Rama, we think that we are Sita, we are Gita, whatever it is, that name, right? So that is the spiritual practice of coming to realize Aham Brahma Asmi. Just by reading in a book, that is not going to happen, right? Is not going to do anything. We can all read in a book, but that will not do anything. One has to do sadhana, and that is the way, right, by which the I feeling will slowly diminish. So that is what this paragraph is talking about, that this I feeling is nothing but a metamorphosed projection of the supreme consciousness, right? So it is nothing, it's a modified consciousness, that's all it is, the I feeling. But we feel that we are that I. We feel that we are that I, right? So that is what keeps us separate from that Paramapurusha. So when we realize that and engage in the process of sadhana, then that I feeling will keep diminishing. Okay. So we'll just take one more paragraph. Shubham Bhagni, do you want to read this? Are you there, Bhagini? Shubham Bhagini?
Yes, Bhagini, I'm outside. Can Chandrasekhar Mahodaya read this?
Okay. Chandrasekhar Mahodaya, you read it.
Human beings' feeling of I is only metamorphosed unit consciousness. Yet this entity of I is different from the unit consciousness or Bhagwan. And so it is not unit consciousness that can be held responsible for performance of actions or experiencing their consequences as long as the actions are performed by that I. For instance, the consequences of the actions performed by Rama on the stage in the changed role of Shah Jahan do not affect Rama. It would be assumed that Shah Jahan only will be affected, as the doer of the act is the assumed personality and not Rama in the capacity of his original personality. Rama in his original capacity would only witness all that the assumed form does or experiences. Similarly, it is the projected or changed form of I which acts and also experiences the results of all actions. The unit consciousness neither performs any actions nor experiences any results. It only witnesses the actions and also the results thereof. So in this paragraph, it just goes further into the distinction between the feeling of I or that entity with the feeling of I and the unit consciousness without the feeling of I. And so it attributes all the doership and all the actions to not the unit consciousness, because the unit consciousness is not the one who's acting, who's doing any other performance. All the actions are attributed to the entity with the feeling of I, or the unit consciousness with the feeling of I. And similar, it's analogous to any actions done by Shah Jahan on the stage is not attributed to Rama, and both the actions and its experiences or the results of the actions are attributed to Shah Jahan, enjoyed by Shah Jahan, not by Rama. And it's similarly any actions done by the entity with the feeling of I is both the actions as well as its results are attributed to the feeling of I entity and not to the unit consciousness, who's without the influence of Prakriti. And so unit consciousness neither performs any actions nor experiences or enjoys the results. It's just a witness. It's a sakshi to everything that's going on. Just like Rama is just a sakshi of whatever happens to Shah Jahan, any actions and the results thereof, or all Shah Jahan's doing and Shah Jahan's experiences, and not Rama's. And it's similarly, you can draw the line to unit consciousness and the entity with the feeling of I. So it's just making it clear who's the doer, who has the doership and the rewards of the experiences of the actions, and clarifies that unit consciousness neither acts nor enjoys the results. It's just as a witness.
Yes, Mahesh. That it's nicely said. That is what it's saying, that the Jivatma is neither the Karta nor the Bhokta. It is just a Sakshi Satta, right? So we are actually getting deeper into what the characteristics are of the unit existence. We know that the human beings, we have a Jivatma, which is separate from the mind, right? The Anuman, and the Anuman has three components. The most subtle of that is the Mahat Tattva, the I feeling. The Aham Tattva is the doer I, and the Chitta is the done I. So this I feeling which human beings have, the small I feeling, leads the human beings to become the doer of their action, right? So whenever human being takes rebirth, they take rebirth as the unit of two things. One is the Jivatma and the other is the mind, right? So at the time of death, those things remain. The Jivatma and the mind remains. So long as we are going to, we're going to be talking about the sanskaras, the unrequited reactions to the previous actions. So at the time of death, if there are any samskaras to the previous actions, right, those reactions which we have not experienced, and then what happens, that forces rebirth. So at the time of rebirth, there is a Jivatma which is linked to the unit mind. So that Jivatma linked to the unit mind, and that Jivatma is not the doer of the actions, it is just a witness. The Jivatma is just a witness, and it is also not the Bhokta, it is not the experiencer of the actions, right? It is neither the doer of the action nor is the experience of action. The Jivatma is only a witness, but it gets dragged into this world time and again by that man who is doing all the things in the name of small I. So he goes on bringing the Jivatma along with him, and the two of them go on, and the Jivatma is not doing those things, but he's getting pulled into the limitations of the human existence, right? That projected form of I, which is produced by the Sattva Guna of Prakriti, and that is what is the I feeling, due to which the Aham Tattva, which is the doer I, right? So then actually the mind is the doer of the actions and is the experiencer of the results, and the Jivatma is linked with that mind, and it is only a witness of all those actions. Okay, so that is what this paragraph is saying, is that when we do any action, so who is responsible for those actions? The Jivatma is only the witness. He is not doing the action, it is not even experiencing the results of the action. It is the mind which is actually doing all of those actions, but the Jivatma gets linked to that, right? As long as we think we are separate and we are doing all of these actions, then we get the pratikriya, we get the results of those actions, we get the karma pala, which we'll be talking about in the following paragraph. So that is what this paragraph is talking about. So the Jivatma is only a witnessing entity, it doesn't do anything. It is actually the I feeling, the mind, which is the doer and experiencer of all the actions and results. Okay, so any thoughts, any questions? Okay, we'll actually stop over here. Okay, धन्यवादः, नमस्कारः.
नमस्कारः, धन्यवादः.